Hey there! I wanna welcome everyone back to my new video on my movie review. Today that I'm gonna talk about is actually a movie that is dearly to my heart, and that's 1994 The Mask with starring Jim Carrey, which I have two pack with Dump and Dumber. And I love this movie dearly to death, and I actually was going to review this movie first because it's my favorite Jim Carrey film, but this was released first, so I'm gonna talk about 1994 The Mask, which I have already mentioned, it starring Jim Carrey. It's one of my personal favorite comedies of all time. It's a childhood movie of mine that I grew up with this film. I watched it yesterday, and I was actually recording this yesterday, but I couldn't finish it because I was non-stop interrupted, so I decided to review today. And The Mask is actually based on a comic book, but it's actually a dark comic book, and it wasn't like was the movie. But The Mask is one of Jim Carrey's best films. The year of 1994 was the year of Jim Carrey because he did Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. It was a huge success. It was a huge hit. He did then this film, The Mask, and then he did this film, Dump and Dumber, because all three movies was released that year. It was the year of Jim Carrey. And The Mask is one of my personal favorite comedy movies of all time. Jim Carrey is one of my favorite comedians. And I love The Mask today. The Mask is a classic. It still holds up for 27 years old movie. It still holds up. It was filmed from August till October 1993. And I really miss this, the 90s. I miss the 90s movies. I hope you like my new poster, because I put it on my wall. Jurassic Park, which I love the movie to death, and I miss the 90s. I miss the movies from the 90s, and I really love this film to death. Jim Carrey, The Mask, which was released as the movie was a huge hit. It was a huge success. Love this one. Now, the Mask was directed by Chuck Russell, who also directed A Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors. He also directed The Blob and The Razor, which is on my channel. I reviewed that film for Arnold Schwarzenegger Marathon. So yeah, I did review that film. But Chuck Russell directed one of my favorite movies of all time. That will be The Mask, which I love this movie to death. Actually, my favorite Chuck Russell film will be A Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors, and then will be The Blob, and definitely this one. But this is not about Chuck Russell, it's actually about my favorite comedy movies of all time. The Mask is my second favorite movie that Jim Carrey did. This is my favorite that he did, but I'll get more into it later, because this is the film that I really love to death. Jim Carrey, from zero to hero. The Mask is a classic. It still holds up today. It's one of the best films in my opinion. The Mask stars Jim Carrey, Cameron Diaz, and Peter Green. And of course it's written by Mike Webb, which he did a great screenplay. I don't know who the music did. I forgot to write down. Story was by Michael Fallon and Mike I think was Verhoeven, I'm not sure. The music was by Randy Edelman and Arthur Sibon. I love the music. But absolutely love this movie to death. It's my childhood movie. It's very dearly to my heart. It's my personal favorite comedy movie of all time. I grew up watching the cartoons, The Mask TV series, which ran from 1995 till 1997. I watched the TV series. My favorite episode will actually be the episode 15 in the first season, in which there was a split personality, in which the mask gets cut to half, and Ipkiss had to put the mask. The other half gets his classmate, who also puts the thing on his face, and that's actually my favorite episode in the TV series. The Mask is based on a comic book, but it's completely different by by the movie. But I'm glad that they wanted to have a comedy instead, instead killing, instead of being a horror film. I'd rather have that the movie is a comedy, and absolutely love the live animations. Everything about this film is a fantastic. It still holds up for 27 years. It still holds up, and I miss the 90s. I grew up in the 90s. I miss the 90s, I miss Jurassic Park. I miss Hard Target, Demolition Man, Cliffhanger. I miss those movies, from the 90s. I miss GoldenEye. I miss Broken Arrow, Hard Boiled. Those movies from the 90s. The 90s had such great, cool movies that I really miss. And The Mask is one of the movies that I love. My top 3 favorite comedy movies are actually Back to the Future, Dumb and Dumber, and this film, The Mask. Those are my top 3 films. And The Mask is one of my personal favorite movies of all time. Of all time. Jim Carrey is my favorite comedian. So before I go to talk about the film, I'm gonna talk about the story. Yesterday, actually, because I watched it yesterday, I had more to come. But the Mask talks about Stanley Ipkiss. Actually talks about Stanley Ipkiss, which he's a bank clerk. He's a banker. He works in a bank. And his life is actually really a mess, his life is really a mess. He tries to be a good guy. He's just looking for a girlfriend or the love of his life. Everyone's looking for the love of his life. So he tries to impress this girl, Maggie. I think I wrote her down someplace. Played by Joelle Fisher, and he buys her 2 concert tickets, which he thinks that he will actually go with her, but she goes and stoots him up for a girlfriend. She stoots her up for a girlfriend. So instead that she goes with Stanley, she goes with her girlfriend. And poor Stanley, his life is actually really a mess. His superior, he also and Stanley Ipkiss also, he has his friends with his co-worker Charlie Shoemaker, played by Richard Jeni, and we see his poor life. His to cheer him up, his friend Charlie, and co-worker, who's also a co-worker, invites him to a party at night in the most hottest famous club, Cocobango, which is the most exclusive and the most hottest club in the city Edge, in the town Edge City. Yes, the movie is set in the fictional town in Edge City, and he goes and invites him, to cheer him up because they're good friends. Actually, I would say call them best friends. He invites him. So Stanley goes to mechanic shop to find the car, but it turns out those two scumbags are actually ripping him off for the car. They're ripping him off. They are scumbags, and you can see them how they act. Because they're ripping off harness customers, and because Stanley needs a car, they give him a rent car, a piece of junk car that belongs to the junk car. So he has no choice but to take the car because he needs it to get to Cocobango Club, and he is now. So we also then see when he goes home, so at night, Stanley goes to visit to Cocobango Club, and because Charlie has a connection, he knows this security man, the security guy, because on the Cocobango Club they're only guests that are actually on the list, and Charlie isn't on the list, but he has the connections with the security guard, and he lets him in, but doesn't let Stanley in, and when Stanley wants to get in, they actually grab him and throw him on the gutter, they throw him on that, they actually throw him on the sidewalk, which is on on the splash, and I forgot to mention, but also Tina Carlisle, a hot singer. She's actually a hot singer, and that's her, played by Cameron Diaz. She's a hot singer, and she's a beautiful, successful nightclub singer in Cucamonga Club. She goes to a bank, so that she actually would open the bank account, and that's how Stanley meets Tina, the most hottest bombshell babe in the Cucamonga Club, Cucamonga Club. But that wasn't only disguise, because Tina, she works for Dorian Tyrell. He's actually a mob enforcer, actually a mafia. Of course, he's actually he's actually a mafia officer who desires to overthrow his superior Nico. Nico is the owner of the Cucamonga Club, and he's actually a crime lord, the head of a mafia. And Tina works for Dorian Tyrell. She's actually his girlfriend, and she works for Dorian Tyrell. Dorian Tyrell uses her as a bait, in which she shows in the camera, because Dorian is actually he and his man freeze his man Freeze, played by Greg E. Catney, Reg E. Catney, they're actually planning a bank heist in which he needs the money so that he can overthrow his superior mobster and Nico, the owner of the Cucamonga Club, because that's his plan, and he's planning to do that. So he uses Tina, in which Tina, in her purse, she brings a camera, and you can see that both of them are planning a bank heist, a bank job. Meantime, when Stanley gets with the car, with a broken car, and he meets Charlie outside the club. He meets two girls, and Stanley doesn't get in the club, Charlie, his two girls get in the club because Charlie has a connection. He's friends with the security guard. But when Stanley tries to get in, he's actually grabbed and he's been thrown the sidewalk. And that time he meets Tina with a limousine, because he gets splashed, with the water gets splashed on his new jacket. And he meets Tina, and he gets the junk car, and he's really embarrassed, poor kid, he's really embarrassed, but he says, okay, I'll take it. He goes in the car stops on the bridge, and he gets pissed. He kicks the car, and whole car collapses because those two idiots, sell him a junk car. So he's really upset, and all he wishes to have is good luck. And in the water, he thinks that he see a body, he thinks that he see a human being been drowning. So being a good citizen, he runs in the water, but he doesn't find the body. He actually finds nothing but a junk, but he finds a mask. In that time, the cop shows up, and they actually starts flashing with the flashlights, asking what he's doing. He says, "I'm looking for my mask," And so now Stanley Ipkiss goes in his apartment. We see his apartment, and we see the owner and the manager of the apartment that Stanley Ipkiss lives. Mrs. P. Mann. She's played by Nancy Fish. She's actually the landlord, and the manager, in which Stanley is actually staying in his small apartment, and he's like all wet, and she's like all pissed. And she's, my new car bent, and when Stanley says, what, Mrs. P. Mann? What? And he chokes it and says, nothing. That's right. There's nothing gonna be. That's all. You are nothing. You are nothing. I love that. And she goes, close the door, all pissed. and he says, maybe you should try to get, if your screws are wired, I should say that, he says something like that. He goes in an apartment, he watches cartoons, and Jim Carrey took the role because the role of Stanley Ipkiss was written on Jim Carrey, and he also took the role because he liked because it was describing him. It was the role that was actually really was written on Jim Carrey's skin. Because Jim Carrey was a loner, he also loved cartoons, his character loved cartoons, so Stanley Ipkiss was written on Jim Carrey's skin. It was written, he acted the character perfectly, brilliantly he acted. And so he goes with a mask, he goes in his apartment, watches cartoons, and Mrs. Pittman is all upset, and she yells, turn that off, so he had to turn off the TV. And we see, in the TV, we also see Dr. Newman, played by Ben Stein. Also Dr. Newman was the character in the TV, in the animated series, when he says, we all wear masks. Metaphorically speaking, we all wear masks, metaphorically speaking, of course, at night, Stanley Ipkiss goes to the mask and he imitates, Dr. Newman, and he says, we all wear masks, in front of the mirror. And when he puts the mask on, something happened, those masks gave him a superpowers, and he turned himself into his alter ego, and all his fantasy came true. He turns himself into a figure owned by Loki with a mask, and he has a superpowers. And I love his costume, I love he's a man with a green mask, his costume. And he's like awesome, he shaves and gets out, and when he goes out of the apartment, he sees the sign by Mrs. Pittman, do not disturb, and he goes, shh, and he walks sneaking slowly, and the alarm clock jumps out of his suit, and starts beeping, and he uses a sledgehammer and goes, shh, shh, and he goes, shh, and Mrs. Pittman goes, ah, and he goes, ah. The eyes loved it, loved the animations, the special effects of the mask, and she gets shot, he goes, shooting, he jumps out of the window, jumps, lands on the window, awesome. I was laughing my ass off, it was awesome. This movie is a classic, man. And he goes out, and this muggers grabs him, he goes in the alley, and he makes the poodle out the balloon, and he accidentally grabs a wet condom that was actually improvised by Jim Carrey. And then he grabs, another a dog in the balloon, but breaks the balloon to this guy, and grabs, this atomic machine gun, shoots out the bed, and all escape, and says, with this I could be superhuman, a superhero, with those powers. But then he goes, into the machine shop, and goes and destroys those two guys, that's awesome, And meantime, Stanley Ipkiss now wakes up and he thinks it was only a nightmare. But that time, Lieutenant Mitch Calloway, played by Peter Riegert, the actor still alive, by Lieutenant Mitch Calloway, knocks on his door and asks him about if he heard the shots, that some character, some mugger broke in the apartment and terrorized Mrs. Pittman, and of course Stanley says he doesn't know anything, remember anything, but then of course Mitch Calloway gives him his card, says if Santa remember, give me a call, because he's in pajama. Then of course Stanley realized that he's late, so he's looking for the keys, and he get to this job 40 minutes late, and he's been harassed by his boss. His boss has been harassed. That guy was played by Eamon Roche. I thought that it was actually the actor who also played in this movie the cop. When he pulls both of them over. I thought he was the same actor, but it wasn't. Mr. Dicky, he's actually Stanley's superior and boss, and Charlie of course saves him, from the trouble, and tells him that his new client is actually the new client actually is actually Tina Carlisle, and because it worked, so he was saved, he actually was saved by he was saved by Charlie, and Charlie asked, where were you last night? We're looking all over for you. So did you try to find me in the gutter? Yeah, so so meantime, then I kind of don't remember exactly. And meantime, Peggy Brandt, played by Amy Jesbeck, she also was in Problem Child 1 and 2. In the first one she played Flo. In the second movie she played Annie, the new love the new love interest to John Ritter, who passed away, late actor John Ritter. She plays Peggy Grant. She's a reporter, and she starts unusual encounter, with phenomenal encounters. She starts to investigate what happened to those two mechanics, who done this, and the leads brings her into the bank to Stanley Ipkiss, and Stanley Ipkiss is the owner of Honda Civic, and she tries to ask him, and he finds out that she's that girl that was having that that show, and he was Mr. Wonderful. He wrote her a letter, and she said, how many women are looking for a guy like you, and she was just awesome, it was just fantastic. It was awesome. So he asked her, so it wasn't the car, it wasn't your car, and he says, that car, yeah, that car, I do own it, and he meets Peggy, the news reporter. Meantime we meet, so now we actually see Dorian Terrell when he's actually grabbed, by his boss Nico. Nico throws him with a golf, and tells him that he has a week to get the fuck out of his town, or next time he's gonna use this golf club on his head if he doesn't. And that time is Dorian even more angry, so he makes a scheme, and he and his associate, his best friend Freeze, are now planning to do a bank heist, And in the meantime, Stanley, he has a dream about Tina, and that he meets her in front of a limousine, and Tina goes and she starts licking his ear, and that time he wakes up, with actually Milo, with his best dog. That was Jack Russell Terrier, Milo. I love his dog, his best dog. The dog goes and he's licking his ear, and it also shows how the team and the crew work, so that they actually did that scene in which the dog goes and licks Stanley's ear. They actually put a peanut butter, in his ear, so it works, so that the dog was licking him. But they really work. Everything was like practical done, with the animals, just like in Batman Returns, it took a really long time, a shot with the monkey putting into the penguin, the note from Batman. Sorry, the children are safe, the children can't get tonight, Batman, It really took a long time, and they actually really trained Jack Terrier, who played Milo, Jack Russell Terrier. They really trained the dog. And I love his puppy, I also love my dog, But where was I? Um, so that actually was so his biggest love of his life became Stina Carlisle, nightclub owner, and because he's way too shy, he can't do it. He's way too shy. The kid is way too shy, so he grabs the mask, turns himself and gets and he goes and robs a bank, because he knew that he needs money. So he robs a bank, and Dorian associates, they actually are now ambushed by cops, and the cops think that Dorian Terrell and his men did pull a bank heist. In the meantime, the mask escapes, goes to the security guard in Cocobango Club. He shows the money, he gets in the Cocobango Club with the biggest white limousine, he gets in the Cocobango Club and he sees, Tina Carlisle, the night singer. He acts like a cartoon, the wolf, the lone wolf, or Bugs Bunny. He acts like the character from the animated cartoons, and he goes and grabs Tina. They start singing. I love the dances, the dances that we saw. Both Jim Carrey and Cameron Diaz, they both performed. Only for certain moves there was stunt doubles used, but most of that you saw, the dancing was perfectly. It was done by Cameron Diaz and Jim Carrey. They didn't need for the dance moves. They actually didn't need stunt doubles. Only for certain moves, they were used. But that was awesome. And in the meantime, associate and friend of Terrell shows up, with the bullet holes to Terrell, but he dies, and then Dorian is really pissed, and he says, "Who done this?" And his other associate, Sweet Eddie, played by Dennis Forrest, he said, "This guy this guy with the green mask, the guy who dances with the Tina, he's dead, man." They both go say to the club, "It's over, the party's over," go and they start shooting the guy, and he keeps changing into more poses. He keeps changing. It's just awesome. and I love that scene when the mask gets dressed into a cowboy, and the associate to Terrell shoots him, shoots the gun away, shoots him, and he goes and shoots him. And but the guy misses him, and he shoots him. And I love that scene when he acts, and we see all the audience. When Terrell grabs his tie, and what the audience, are cheering, and he gets an Oscar. Yeah, Jim Carrey deserves an Oscar in my opinion for The Mask. The Mask is, in my opinion, the Oscar material. This movie is Oscar material, Jurassic Park. So that's one of the reasons why I love this movie to death, And then Terrell and his associate shoots him, and of course Calloway shows up and says, "Drop it, Terrell!" And he shows, the weapons, and of course she says, there was you guys pulled the heist, but Terrell says, "Yeah, it's true, but it wasn't one of my men," And also when the guy shoots on the mask, a piece of pajamas, Ipkiss, falls down, and shows up, and Calloway finds that piece, and he goes to the apartment back to Stanley. Next day, Stanley wakes up, and he finds all the money, he tries to hide it, and the dog keeps making noise, and Calloway shows up, and he barely hides the money. Calloway goes in his apartment and asks him, "Where are your pajamas? I want to see them." And he says, "Oh, that was stolen. Someone stole your pajamas." And says, "Yeah, it was stolen," And Calloway is sure that Stanley is the inside man, that this bank was inside job, Once again, Ipkiss is actually late an hour for his work, and once again Mr. Dickey is pissed. He goes yelling at him, and I love it when finally Ipkiss stood up and says, "Back off, monkey boy, or I tell your daddy what you're doing, or I call your IRS to get you arrested." And the guy goes away. "That will be all, Ipkiss," and he gets away. I love that scene. "Back off, man, monkey boy." I love that scene. Oh my god, love that scene. This movie is funny to death. Best of the best comedy of all time. It's the best, you know. Oh my god, back off, monkey boy. I love that scene. Yeah, so he finds out that his bank was robbed, and meantime Terrell he offers $50,000 to the one that brings in the man with the green mask. You know, $50,000. It says everyone on the street, everyone should know should find out. You know, so the one who brings me the man with the green mask gets $50,000. You know, meantime, Stan Lipkis visit Dr. Arthur. Newman, and then it talks about the mask, you know, but it turns out that there's actually this god, you know, that's banished by Odin, you know, Loki, and probably it's the god, you know, because he was at night. So when he puts the mask, I was laughing my ass, but it actually works only by night. It works only by night because it was, I guess Loki was actually in the, I guess Loki was actually in the mask in it, you know, he was in the mask. So yeah, so he asks Dr. Newman that you know, because Tina shows up in his bank, you know, and talks and wants to know about this man with the mask, you know, when she was kissing at him and she was dancing at him, and he also, you know, says, you know, he also tells her you should be two persons at the same time, standing at the same time, the man with the mask, you know, two wonderful persons, you know. So so Stanley meets Tina in the park, but he also, you know, but he talks to her, but he changed the man with the mask, you know. He goes and completely, you know, all the fantasy change, you know. He's like the man with the mask, he's awesome, you know. Meantime, Calloway shows up in the park with the cops, you know, and he says, you know, it gets freeze, and he jumps, you know, he gets, and of course, Tina runs away, and Calloway shows up and says, because what hell is this, you know, I said, put your hands up. And he says, you told me to freeze. Okay, alright, don't freeze, you know. And they go and they're looking for his pockets. They find all the junk like bazooka. He doesn't have a permit for this, you know. And he also finds that picture and it says, picture Margaret, you son of a bitch. Oh, he goes to punches both of them. You know, it says, don't worry. Anyway, you married her, and he escapes and he comes both of them, you know. So he goes, you know, close the door, and like all the cops are there. The cops are like singing, and he uses, and I love how they did it, you know. They're like singing. There's a lady cop, she was singing, and it was actually Leslie Cook. She was dancing policewoman, and she started singing. They all like singing, which I love that singing scene. It was excellent. It was awesome. I love the singing scene. It was fantastic. It was awesome, you know. And then when he makes like a party, he escapes by the cops. He puts the mask out, but Peggy goes with him, and you know, and they actually go on the hideout, you know. And that time Calloway and his men are shooting, but they're missing, you know. They all missed, you know. Doyle, his parents says, I missed. It says, no, we all missed, you know. So they go, so now in this facility, you know, when Ipkiss and Peggy are hiding, when they're talking about, you know, she actually says that he's the most gorgeous, you know, guy, but actually she lied, and that time she rat him out, you know. Peggy rat out Stanley Ipkiss to Dorian Terrell because she needed the money, so he gave her $50,000. I actually read that when so Dorian Terrell he grabs, you know, Ipkiss and wants to know how the mask works. You know, he says that you just put it on, and Dorian Terrell puts the mask on. You know, he turns himself with the power in the most supernatural villain ever. You know, and of course. You know, Peggy says he said it on the hood and said, I lied. So they ask what to do with Ipkiss, and he says the police are looking for the man with the mask. We'll give them the man with the mask, you know, with the green mask. Actually, when Dorian Terrell puts the mask, he's supposed to kill Peggy Brandt. But Chuck Russell hated that scene, he hated that cut, and he cut that scene. And he changed in which Peggy Brandt, he actually lives, so we don't know what happened to Peggy Brandt, but I assume that she actually ran away because she needed the money. She said, she owns money to people, so actually she left. That's how I actually assumed. But so Calloway says, what are you gonna do? So I don't know where Ipkiss is. He's gonna land my arms, and that's happened. Ipkiss runs out of the car, lands on Calloway. He lands on the Calloway's arms. He gets arrested. In the meantime, Tina, she shows up and visits him, and she says that she actually loves the man, under the mask. But she has to run away out of the town because Dorian Terrell has now the mask and he's planning something big, But yeah, they almost kiss, but she begins to love his life, and I just love that. And and when a group of men from Terrell are actually now chasing Tina, and of course I love when Jim Carrey, Stanley Ipkiss sees that, and he says, man, come on, there's a woman in trouble, come on, son, protect me. The guy says, quiet because the guy is sleeping, quiet because, come on, son, protect man, and I love when Ipkiss says, Milo, just find a new owner, I'm gonna run a lot of time here, and that time he got Milo, and he go, come on, jump Milo, and the dog, jumps, he goes and jumps, Milo jumps. And actually, a Jack Russell Terrier can jump 5 feet, just like Milo jumps in Jim Carrey's arms. And he grabs his dog. He says, "Come on, get me the keys. Go get me the keys." And he goes and grabs the cheese. Says, "No, not the cheese. I said the keys. Grab the keys." And he goes and grabs the policeman's keys. He opens the sash, tries to get the gun. The guy wakes up. He uses the stick, Jim Carrey goes and punches his light out, that time Calloway shows up and he goes and takes him as a hostage, and he says, you're never gonna get out alive out of the station. He said, you're right, but without you I will, with you I will, so they both go out, to club, to Cocobango Club. In meantime, Dorian Terrell, he's now the mask, he actually goes, into in the Cocobango Club, and he starts shooting Nico Man, and Nico goes and shoots it. He grabs the bullets, he goes, and kills him with his mouth, with the bullets he kills him. They blast that piggy, the money saver, they blast, they put the bomb because they want to detonate the bomb and destroy the Cocobango Club, because Dorian Terrell, he wants to be now the man in charge. He wants to own the town. He wants to be the head of the mafia, And he kills Nico. He goes and puts the Tina, and he goes and ties her. He goes and ties her around the bomb. In meantime, I love when Stanley Ipkiss, goes to Calloway, puts him, says, call the backup or something. He says, I have to lock you in. Milo, wait on me. The daddy has to go to kick some ass. He goes with his gun. He tries to save Tina, but he gets caught himself. And Tina says, I want a kiss, but I want a kiss by real Dorian Terrell. He puts the mask, and he grabs the leg, kicks the mask, and that dog, he escapes and catches the mask. He goes with the mask, he puts himself the mask, and he's like peeing this guy, Sweet Eddie. He goes and pees this guy. Then he spotted Sweet Eddie. The guy shoots with a machine gun. And also, of course, now Jim Carrey grabs the mask, but the mask lands, for the counter. He jumps the counter, grabs the mask, he gets hit, and he goes and kicks everyone's ass. I forgot to mention, but I love the fight scene between Dorian Terrell and Ipkiss, Dorian goes to punches him, Ipkiss goes punches him back along the fight scene, and, he goes, try! He goes like fighting him, he says, Terrell goes punches him back, I love the fight scene in between Terrell and Ipkiss, and Ipkiss grabs the mask, and he stabs the bad guys. He grabs the bomb, eats the bomb explodes, and Terrell is pissed, wants to get revenge on Ipkiss and Tina, and of course the mask grabs, he actually draws that toilet, how you can the toilet door, and he flashes the door, and the guy gets flashed. I was laughing my ass off, but yeah, Ipkiss then he grabs the mask, he saves Tina, he saves everyone in the club, from the mobsters, he saves everyone. Calloway grabs, he lands on the mayor, he says, watch out, chubby, or what, and the mayor is pissed, and he says, but he's the man with the mask, he says, no, that is Dorian Terrell, I saw it myself, you're gonna get them all. Calloway gets in probably says, this young man saves everyone, he saves our lives, he saves everyone, and Ipkiss, he saves the girl of his dream, he saves everyone at the nightclub, he saves the Cocobago club, he's a hero. So yes, he's a hero, he saves everyone, he's a hero, he saves Tina, and by the finale when they draw, on the bridge, he asks her, are you sure? Because then it's just me, and Tina grabs the mask, throws the mask, and Charlie jumps in the water, and meantime, she goes, Tina kisses with Stan Ipkiss, says smoking, the movie then ends, with a beautiful music song. I love this movie to death. Now to the characters, Jim Carrey was perfect as Stan Ipkiss, the bank clerk, who has a messed up life. He was perfectly as cast. He was awesome. His best role. This was actually Cameron Diaz's first role. It was actually her first role, It was actually Cameron Diaz's first role, and she was excellent as Tina Carlisle. Actually, she was a model that time. Jim Carrey was 31 when he did this movie, while she was 21 that time. She was still very young. And Cameron Diaz was the best. She's perfect. She's the best in my opinion. Peter Green, he was in Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. He was in Judgment Night with Emilio Estevez. He was in numerous movies, but the most, he was also in Coyote Run with Michael Pere. But he was in Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. I most remember him, but it was actually awesome, But Cameron Diaz, she actually was auditioned 12 times for the part of Tina, only landed the role 7 days before shooting began, And New Line Cinema, they actually did not want Cameron Diaz, as an actress, but Charles Russell, he actually hated, what they did, and he threatened, if she's not gonna be cast, he threatened not to direct the film. So they had to cast her, but they did not want her because she was a model at that time and she had no experience in acting. But she actually landed the role of Tina Carlisle, and she was awesome. She was perfect, she was great choice. Cameron Diaz's best movie. And the reason why I became a huge fan of her was this movie. It wasn't There's Something About Mary, it was this movie. I actually went to see this movie that she did in 2002, The Sweetest Thing, in 2002. I saw it in movie theater, which Cameron Diaz had a huge role. I even bought Charlie's Angels, the VHS, the time because of her. Because Cameron Diaz is talented, awesome actress. She's no longer on TV anymore since 2014. I think it was her last movie. I think because she's married now, and she's actually now. I think because she's married now, and because I think she's actually focusing on her married life. I think she has a child But Cameron Diaz's first movie was really the best. Charles Russell directed perfectly this movie. I love the effects. Um, 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 I did wrote the effects. The people who did the effects. The mask visual effects were handled by ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. The visual effects for the mask are awesome. They're awesome. They are fantastic. The comedy, the outlines like the Orville mask, smoking, somebody stop me, smoking. The lines are fantastic. They're perfect. The script by Mike Webb is awesome. He also I love. We all wear mask. Metaphorically speaking, I love the outlines, the acting performance. The cast is perfect. Dennis Forrest, rest in peace, who played Sweet Eddie with the long hair, in which Milo pissed at him. He was in Cliffhanger, a bad guy. He was in Cliffhanger. Jim Dolkan did a good job as Doyle, and Peter Regret as Lieutenant Mitch Calloway did a great job. Amy Jesbeck was Peggy Grant. She lives in this movie. In the TV show, Peggy is actually the love interest for Stan Lipkis, and also Mitch Calloway, Doyle, and of course Mrs. P-Man, and of course and of course, Dr. Arthur Newman, they all actually, and Milo, they all appear in the TV show, in 1995 was a TV series, animation TV series when I watched, it took 4 hours to apply the mask, so yeah, that was 4 hours for the makeup, the budget for this movie was $23 million, opening weekend was in the US and Canada was $23 million. It actually made gross in US and Canada $119 million, made worldwide $351 million, which was a huge success by New Line Cinema at that time. Jim Carrey was paid $450,000 for his work in the film. He got $7 million before the film opened to star in Dumb and Dumber. In this movie, his pay salary was $7 million, but this movie he was $450,000. New Line Cinema did this movie because Ace Ventura: Pet Detective was a huge success. So they're all from New Line Cinema, so that's awesome. Richard Jennings also plays Charlie Shoemaker. He did a good job. Ortiz Matacena plays Nico. He was awesome. Nancy, the bad guy, the villain. Nancy Fish plays Mrs. P-Man, so she was awesome. Jack Russell Terrier Swallow was also awesome. The movie was based on a comic book, which was different from superhero strips. Susan Boyd was actually singing Tina Carlisle. Tina Carlisle singing in voice was actually Susan Boyd, so Cameron Diaz was not singing, she was dubbed by Susan Boyd. I also love the soundtrack on the end of credits. Escape, Who's the Man? Love the soundtrack on the end. It's actually a 27-year-old movie. It was Cameron Diaz's first movie. Huge fan of the actress. She was great as Tina Carlisle. Tina Carlisle wasn't the animated TV series, because I don't remember. But I love the visual effects for the mask. I love the jokes, the plot, the story. Charles Russell did the perfect direction. The music score, the soundtrack, Escape, Who's the Man? Love that song. The cast is perfect. Dennis Forrest, he was a cliffhanger. He passed away 2002, so it's really sad. So rest in peace. The Master series from 1995 till 1997, the 3 seasons. So that was awesome. Jim Carrey was 31 that year, so was fantastic. Love his costume, the green mask, his costume, his hat. I love how he acted. I love the dancing, the singing, the sound, the songs, the comedy, the joke. One of my personal favorite comedy movie of all time. It's dear to my heart. I love The Mask to death. Love this movie to death. But that's my movie review on The Mask. 1994. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And the next review that I'm gonna do will be my favorite Jim Carrey. This is my second favorite. This is gonna be my favorite Jim Carrey movie. That's Dumb and Dumber, which I'll review soon. Thanks for watching. Now take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.